US that B and H are two of our strongest emotions separated by a thin line at one end of the scale. Theberk, that a 7 wide protects the 7, then you don't give up. Right now it's not true that I don't shy away from anything rehensive hostility for another even if it destroys themselves in the process. Not W, even though 99% of the time it's not that extreme. Most married couples fluctuate between these feelings during their marriage. But when we are under pressure, especially when an argument follows, we go too far. I can now attest to this. I call it going over to the dark side. My name is Steve Moe. I work as a company manager at Atlas Plastics. I have been married to my soulmate Kay for a year and a half. And this month, I celebrated my 32nd birthday. Danny, who is 6, and Kenny, who is 7, are our 2 sons. We live in a spacious house in the suburbs of Atlanta. Most weekends we go to a party or a barbecue at someone's house because we have a group of great friends who living in the same area. When we got married, I had a lot of friends in the area we lived in, but Kay didn't get along with most of them. They didn't care what kind of car guy drove or how big the house was, and they weren't as sophisticated as our people today. They were a strong group who liked to have fun and were always there for you. Our first big argument came when Kai decided we should move to what she called a nicer area. We both had relatively low mortgage payments, and our house was only 15 minutes from our jobs. Unlike my wife, who is constantly looking for something better, I consider myself a no-brainer who doesn't care too much about the finer things in life. After a week of being upset about Kay announcing that we had to move, I finally decided what the heck. As you can see, most topics aren't worth discussing. Cars, houses, and Kay are just tangible possessions that ultimately don't define a person's existence. When Kay dug his heels in, I just gave in to her demands. There was no point arguing with her about it. I can count on one hand the number of times Kay and I have argued over the last few years. So you can call me a wimp. That was before last night. One of our neighbors owns the interior design firm that Kai works at. She can take the kids to school in the morning and be home when they get off the bus, because she works 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I, on the other hand, work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. depending on traffic. I usually get home around 5:45 a.m. By 5:15 a.m. I'm home and have a drink at our old apartment. However, due to an accident on the route, I didn't get home until around 6:15 p.m. on Tuesday night. As I pulled into my driveway, I was a little nervous, but I figured at least I was home and could relax with my wife. After sneaking in through the back door, I went upstairs to put on some shorts and an old t-shirt. I heard Kay on the phone as I walked down the stairs to the kitchen. You know, Steve and Laura. So don't worry. I heard Kay telling her sister that he would abide by everything with what I said. I think I know my husband a little better than you do, and no, he won't be mad. I have thought of everything, and will speak to him tonight after dinner. Sure, I will call you and let him know how he reacted. Anyway, I have to go now, girl, because I have to finish my food. Kay put the phone down and mumbled, "We'll talk later. What do we need to discuss?" As I turned the corner, I inquired, "I was scared of you, Steve." When I turned up, Kay said, "If I may ask again, what do we need to discuss?" "That has to wait until after dinner." I sat down at the kitchen table, took a beer out of the fridge, and said, "Let's wait until the boys go upstairs after dinner." She suggested, "What have you done this time? I have already spoken to you about the car and the need not to hit golf balls in the garden. What else could you have done since Saturday night? This is about us, not the boys. Since last Friday night when I touched your ass, Frank Grill Bar. I haven't done anything wrong, and you looked so hot in those new jeans. That's the only reason I done." "What did you buy this time?" I asked to lighten the mood in our discussion. "That's not what I'm discussing," she started by saying. "It's about how we treat each other." "What's wrong, sweetheart? We both know we love each other." She took my hands in hers and whispered, "Yes, Steve, you know I love you, but I'm not sure if I still love you." What I felt uncomfortable with the direction this conversation was going. So I said, "I don't understand, Kay. Just speak up if you have something to say." She touched my cheek and whispered, "You're a great father and the best and most loving husband in the world." But Kay's look was reassured when she realized, "I'm just not sure I still feel the same way about you as I did when we got married. To find out how I feel, I'm considering a trial separation." "I don't understand, Kai. How could that be before or after our goodbye kiss this morning? After all, the path from love to hate had already begun, and I was a little worried about where this would lead. I think for some time after, but I wanted to be sure of my wishes before I say anything. I don't understand. Do you want me to go somewhere?" I asked. "I was wondering if it would be possible for you to live with your mother temporarily. Since your father died, she lives alone in the big house. Maybe she needs a little company, Kay said. As if she was talking to a small child, I started to get angry, but suppressed it. If I leave, how are you going to pay for the house and everything else? Knowing what would happen next, I asked, as you can see, I am approaching the dark side here. You will still have to pay, but this will not be permanent. In the gentlest and most compassionate voice, she continued, just until I have some time to think about something. I stood up. No. What do you mean? Astonished, Kay asked. What don't you understand about that? No, I will not live with my mother anymore. And no, neither my house nor my 2 sons will leave me. To get your head and your ass back in balance, you should leave, if necessary, as you so beautifully said. If you don't love me anymore, I don't want you here either. I slammed my beer on the table, went upstairs to our bedroom, and said, I'll even help you pack, because I'm such a damn good guy. When I came back with an armful of clothes from Kay's closet, she was completely baffled. I threw the clothes on the couch in the living room, rushed back upstairs, and said, put it in the car. I'll be right down with the next load. Kay yelled at me to stop as I grabbed another handful. I assumed you wanted a breakup. I told her very calmly, I'm just helping you get your stuff out. That's all. She yelled at me as I went from loving her to hating her, or as I prefer to call it now, the dark side. I want you to go. No, Kay, that's not going to happen. I haven't done anything to you or the kids that would warrant being kicked out. This is my home. I dropped the second armful of clothes on top of the first and said, if you want to take your stuff to the basement, I can put it there for you. Kay plans were not carried out at all. She felt like Steve was expected to tuck his tail between his legs, and silently said there was no reason for him getting upset. What am I supposed to do now? Damn it, let's talk like 2 adults. She added, thank you, V said. Enough, Kay, at least marry your true feelings for me. Show your clothes. You want to have tried to keep your cool, I said, because you are definitely not sleeping in my bedroom anymore. Our sons Danny and Kenny were curious about what was going on when they entered the room. Mom is just putting some of her things away. Let's get some burgers and give her time to get ready. I only had to ask once. We left and came back 45 minutes later with the food, but there were 2 police officers and a few other people. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How can I help you? As I get out of the car and tell the boys to go inside, I ask. The large man who had his gun in his hand said, we need to talk to you because we received a call about a domestic dispute. After noticing his hand, I replied, officer, you won't be needing that then. I explained why I had come home. I told her I wasn't leaving the house, but I didn't yell at her or my kids threatened. I pay all expenses. My name is on the mortgage, and I think I have every right to stay here unless there is a court order, which I seriously doubt. I offered to help my wife move out if she is not happy with me, and I would even help her pack. The 2 officers laughed, obviously amused at my situation. When officers told Kay that there was nothing they could do, Kay became angry, to put it kindly. They, however, promised her that they would provide a report stating that I was F and not a threat to my family or myself. Kay, meanwhile, spoke to them about her husband while she screamed, raged, and used foul language. Ultimately, my goal was to help my wife pack her personal belongings into the vehicle. All they saw was that after I thanked them and shook their hands, they wished me luck. Kay was angry that she did not get her way. Why don't you go and make our lives easier, Steve? She yelled at me. That is not going to happen, Kay. Like I said, so decide if you want to keep your things in the basement or in the car. You have the choice. I grabbed the food and went out onto the patio where my boys were waiting and said, think carefully about what you're going to do next. The boys and I were going to eat outside on the patio. What's wrong with Mom? Who knows, maybe she wasn't having a good day at work. Guys, give yourself some space, I assured my boys, without even believing a word of it. You know, Mom, she'll be back to her old self soon. After dinner, we watched a show about the hosting of the X Games in Atlanta. How about you all go upstairs? I'll be up later to check on you, I told them. After they went upstairs, I went looking for Kay. I threw her clothes on the couch, and she left them there. When I got upstairs, I saw that 2 of her suitcases were missing, and numerous drawers were open. That's probably my answer, I mumbled as I sat on the bed, not knowing what was going to happen. Oh no, at 5 o'clock I left a new wife and family, and now at 10 o'clock I no longer had a new wife, but I still had 2 sons. Life can be awful sometimes. I called my mother and said, Mom, I need a big favor to make sure the boys got to school on time and were there when she got home. I told her my version of events and asked if she could come over. Maybe Kay was just overwhelmed by her hormones. She added, I thanked my mom. I thanked her, but said I wasn't as confident as she was. I will come over in the morning just to make sure, but she will probably come back when she sees how stupid she has been. I was right. Kay didn't come back on Wednesday or Thursday. On Thursday afternoon, she didn't bother to speak to me, But she called the boys to say hello. I guess she still saw me as the idiot. On Saturday morning I was upset and anxious. I started criticizing myself and said you can't blame anyone but yourself. Kay wouldn't be trying to drive you out of your own house if you hadn't been such an idiot all these years. Currently, she is sulking in her parents' house, accusing me of being a heartless fool for not considering her feelings. I looked around and shouted to hell with her in this damn house. It's too big for the four of us anyway, and I didn't want to go in the first place. In fact, Kay's sister Laura came round on Sunday afternoon to bring her some things. I greeted Laura at the door. She would send her to get some new clothes. I thought it was all about Kate, you know. She smiled and added, I still don't understand why you didn't just hand over the house and the children and move out. She claimed to know you better than I did, even though I warned you that you wouldn't comply. I suppose she was wrong. I should have thrown her out long ago, but I kept quiet to keep the harmony. Do you know when she plans to return? I have no idea. Mom is ready to throw her out if she doesn't get a grip, but she's still in her I pour you phase. But his little kid can do no wrong, you know. Daddy, do you want to eat with us? There's fried potatoes, corn on the cob, and grilled chicken. She smiled and said, let me get her things, then we'll see. We all enjoyed a great dinner, and the boys were delighted seeing Laura. Kay sent her 2 texts to ask where she was, but she didn't respond. After we cleaned up together, she indicated that she better leave around 8 o'clock. I appreciate you coming by. It was nice to see a familiar face for once. Call us if you need anything. When I told my sister that she was ruining a good, all her friends insisted that she should stand firm and that she would soon see her mistake. That's not going to happen. I didn't tell her that, not at all, but you better go before you put yourself in more danger. Laura hugged me tightly, kissed me on the cheek, and left the room. I whispered to myself, I married the wrong sister. The next 3 weeks were not easy. Mom helped with childcare and didn't talk to me while Kay was on the phone with the boys, but she did send me 2 long emails full of gibberish about how awful she felt and that I wasn't going to help her. The only thing that surprised me was that Kai was invited to the neighborhood parties. While I was gone, they had already picked a side. I guess the first thing I noticed was the kids were dying to know when their mom was coming home. Guys, I'm not sure. It really depends on her. I informed them that she does it on her own and that I'm not stopping her. My life started to change on Saturday morning while we were out shopping. Someone grabbed me from behind and lifted me off the floor as my 2 sons and I were walking down the aisle. A voice from the past spat at me. You such a whipped kitten. You're probably still fondling her shorts. You're still as misshapen as the piece of __. You've always been. If that's the highest point you can lift me up, I'll never know what Carol saw in you. But I laughed and thought you'd vanished off the face of the earth now that you've got the big house. It's too good for us. Randy asked. You've always thought I was too good. I hugged him and realized you just never noticed. It's good to see you. As he walked back down the aisle, Randy muttered, see you later, guys. Uncle Randy? Yes. With wide eyes, my boys inquired. Uncle Randy was here, so we better hurry. I want to be on time for this event. We reached Randy's house just after 4:30 p.m. as her girls collected my boys and made their way to the garden. Carol came out and gave me a big hug. Kay, where are you? Carol inquired. I replied, that's a whole different story, but I'm glad you and the boys made it. Carol implied that everyone would be happy to see you. She was right too. Our friends treated us like we had never left. I had a great time with the kids. Randy and I sat down together at the end of the evening. When everyone had left, they wanted to know what had happened between Kay and I could only tell them I don't know and shook my head. I told them we never argued, let alone fought. Maybe that's the problem. To keep the peace, I let her do what she wanted. Damn, I believed Kate was satisfied and had as much sex as I wanted. Who knows? I informed Carol that I believed it went much deeper than she said. It was probably just a woman's thing. You don't love your husband, but you don't tell him that this is just nonsense. I never believed that Kay might be playing foul play, but now I wouldn't rule it out. I will watch this with my eyes open and my mouth closed. Goodbye, Mr. Nice Guy. In the future, my children will come first, followed by me, and everyone else, especially my mates from the nice weather neighborhood, will be damned. Laura came round every Sunday to bring Kay new clothes. I started to look forward to her visits, and she always stayed for dinner. I hope to speak to Kay when I dropped my boys off at their parents' on Saturday mornings. It was so easier to just drop them off and leave after the first explosion. That way the front garden would no longer be the scene of conflict. Bev, I finally despaired. I was angry at first and then almost gave up. Damn, when I went through a 7-step program, I felt like a damn alcoholic. I even sent weekly emails trying to get her to reply to tell her how much I missed her and love, but to no avail. She wrote, "My love, please be patient, Steve. All I want is to solve these stubborn problems so they don't come back." She wrote, "Just hold on a little longer. I know it's been difficult for you and the boys. That at least gave me hope." 3 long months later, as I was doing the Sunday washing up, Laura broke my heart. Laura replied without looking me in the eye, "Kay had a date last night, and it wasn't the first time she went, even though I told her she was crazy, still avoiding eye contact." She continued, "I thought you should know." I remained silent. The water dripped on the floor as I stood there with a soapy dish towel. Did they hear what I said? Laura looked at me questioningly. She had a bloody date. She was screaming at me, "So for heaven's sake say something." I was too shocked or scared to move or even speak. For the first time since she left, I thought about my life without Kay. Yes, I had rage screamed and shouted a few times, but I always thought she would come back and we would be happy again. Now I realized for the first time that maybe that wouldn't be the case. "Steve, are you still there? Did you listen to what I just said?" Laura repeated, her heart pounding against my chest. "Stop it. You can only stand there while your cheating wife has sex with someone else." I grabbed her hands and pulled her into a hug. I heard Laura start to cry, and tears came to my eyes. "It's not fair. They're just you and be a nice." Kale held me tightly and muttered, "It's just not right. It's not right. Oh no." Just as the kids entered the room to find out why everyone was screaming, I screamed, "What's going on, Daddy?" I told my boys that Aunt Laura had hurt her knee after slipping on the floor. When they returned to the living room, they reminded everyone that they still had to see the movie and that they would be waiting for them. My boys sat right in front of the projection TV while Laura and I sat on the couch. They had seen at least 6 times. Me twice. We all watched the movie silently. Laura held my hand and whispered, "I'm sorry." I was trapped on the dark side, dazed. In my mind, I prepared my next move, not for revenge, but for survival. After the movie, I walked Laura to the door and put the kids to bed. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Sure, but I'll survive." She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Call me if you need anything or just want to talk." Laura walked out and said, "You know, she's an idiot. Call me." I took Monday off and sat at the computer after dropping the kids off at school. 2 of our Vis credit cards had unpaid balances. I canceled the accounts after paying both off. Then I went to the bank and opened a new account in my name only and transferred half of our remaining balance. I was told it would take 6 business days to remove my name from the current accounts. I changed the security codes for the front door and garage door opener, changed the locks on the house myself, and called HR at the started working to get Kay out of my life insurance for 01ks health and dental insurance. After that, I went to the mall, canceled Kay's cell phone plan, which came with a $250 premium, and got a new plan in my name alone. For the first time in a long time, I smiled and noticed, wait until Kay tries to use her phone that should brighten her day. I left a message on the answering machine asking Kay to call her parents' landline instead, but kept the landline number. The kids ran into the house. Like always, "I need the keys to your old house, boys," I said. "I changed the locks. Here are your new ones." I gathered up the old keys, threw them in the trash, and gave each of them a new key. "Done," I said to myself. And the transition from contented husband to single dad took only hours. I knew the explosion was imminent when the phone rang at home that night. I told the boys to leave a message on the answering machine. "Stephen Moore, what the hell are you doing? My credit cards and my cell phone are not working. Please call me immediately and explain your rude behavior only." When she was very upset, "Did Kay call me, Stephen?" Laura called to say she was on her way, but it took more than 3 months to completely lose her mind, even though it was only a few hours to drive her to the edge. She added, "We are all going to dinner, so get the kids." After she stopped, she rushed to the door and yelled at us to hurry up. "Why the rush?" I inquired. "My parents and Kay want to come over and talk to you in person." We ended up at Sony's barbecue, to which she replied, "If you don't want to listen to this nonsense, let's go. We are all having fun." And the food was excellent. "You know, I changed the locks. When I found out you had canceled her insurance, her cell phone, and credit cards, I assumed." So Dad got angry after she informed my parents that you had looted all the money and accounts. I took exactly half, but only after she had paid off all her credit cards for the last 3 months. What a spendthrift this girl is. You know, Daddy is the master and protector of his little girls, even when they are wrong," added Laura, disproving my initial suspicion. "And what are you going to do now?" she inquired. "Nothing," I said. "Nothing. The only thing you could do is put this ugly house up for sale, even if we manage to reconcile. I want this house to go because I have detested it from day one. You say and sell the house without her consent," or I told her, smiling. "From year to year, I know, but all the neighbors will be talking about us. When the for sale sign goes up." We spent nearly 3 hours outside. Finally, we made our way home because the children had to go to bed. "They are getting a divorce from their mother." As I was putting the children to bed that night, they inquired. My mother answered no when we asked her, "But she doesn't live here anymore." I can't answer yes or no yet, children. Although I love you and you know your mother, I don't think she wants to live with me any longer. The only thing we can do is wait and see what she decides. I assured them that she loved her and that everything would be okay, and kissed them both good night. Laura and I were sitting at the kitchen table when I reached for a drink and gave it to her. "Do you realize that this hiding is not going to last forever? And I don't intend to either." I claimed that it would not be difficult for her to find me, because she knew where I lived and where I worked. Kay barged into my office at work on Thursday. "You have no right to block my phone and credit card," she started. "Also, when did you change the locks on the house?" "Hello, Kay. You look fantastic, and how are you? The boys miss you a lot when you are not living with us." "And I am fine. I am glad you noticed. I have lost a few pounds." I just carried on chatting, leaving Kate very perplexed. "What on earth are you talking about, Steve?" she finally inquired. "Just answer all the questions you should be asking after nearly 4 months apart, and now sit down and let's discuss if you want. However, as this is a professional office, I must ask you to leave. If you want to scream and shout, fine," Kay remarked as she took a seat across from my desk. "You did all that last week. But why did you start dating?" "But why did I miss something? Or are we still married?" I inquired. "That was just dinner with a friend." "Did you share a bed with him?" "I didn't share a bed with him." "I'm sorry, I said yes, it was just dinner." "Were you planning on sleeping with him?" I asked. "Why are you questioning me so much, Steve? I just want to know what my time frame is." "What time frame?" Kay inquired to a startled Kay. I said grounds for divorce. "Damn it, I do and want a divorce," Kay replied to my scream. "But you act like you're moving on without us. If you date, disrespect your spouse and children, or buy new underwear for someone else, I know what you're buying, Kay, but I'm not sure who the credit card statements are still being delivered to the house." "I told you I don't want a divorce for the 10th time or so." She told me all I need is a little time to myself. But this time I let they CA and get away with it. "Kay, how much time? How much longer do you need?" I inquired, not knowing myself. I don't know how to react. She said, "Well, let me know when you figure it out." I stood up and added, "But if you want to try and save this marriage, then do it soon. I have a meeting in 20 minutes, and I have something to do now." I turned away as she tried to kiss me goodbye. Despite her obvious desperation, she remained silent. "Do you want to go to a party on Saturday night, Laura?" I inquired. "Yes. And we're just come to my house at 10 o'clock. I told them to dress casually. I didn't want to go alone again. And Randy and the group were organizing a big adults-only party. We were among the last to arrive. They mentioned 6:30. "Right?" I asked Randy. "At 6:30, Hank and Ted arrived. They started the smoker, and the women prepared some beans and potato salad. Before I knew it, everyone had gathered, and the party was in full swing. By 6 o'clock, give me so no blame. I said, "Let's get the party started," and introduced everyone to Laura before Carol and the other girls picked Laura up. I opened a drink for each of us. "Who is the woman?" Randy inquired. "Kay's younger sister. That is good. She makes a nice bedfellow." "Have you gone mad? She's my sister-in-law. Damn it, how am I supposed to know? One day you're really going to have to get your head out of your ass, Randy." It was like old times at the party. The women told stories and gossiped about their boyfriends, while the beer flowed from time to time. I looked over to see how Laura was doing. She seemed to be really enjoying herself. After dinner, the couples' games began. First, 20 questions were asked, 10 for the men and 10 for the women. Anyone who answered a question incorrectly had to take a shot of beer. This didn't seem like much, though many of us were pretty drunk. By the end of the evening, they were asked to give information about date of birth, weight, eye color, place of first meeting, mother's maiden name, and other details. Laura had 9 correct answers, while I only got 3, which shocked me. She knew me better than I thought she would. There followed the game of passing objects between partners. The bigger things were pretty easy, but I totally failed at the spoon and the shot glass. Through all the intimate physical contact, I learned a lot more about Laura and her well-toned figure. I found out that she was much faster and more agile Then me, I had to drink beer after beer because I kept losing. By the end of the night, I was, as I said, numb from everything, including the agony. Randy said to Laura, "Let me help you get him into the car." I thought he needed it tonight, but I hadn't seen him that drunk in a long time. "Would you like me to walk you home and help him get into bed?" "Thanks for asking, but know that it's not necessary. He has a guest room downstairs, and if I can't take him upstairs, I'll just leave him there," said Laura. As she made her way to my house, my bladder had other ideas, and I wasn't planning on waking up at 3:45 a.m. I guess man have to pay for the privilege of drinking a liter or two of beer. My head started pounding as I sat up and swung my legs over the edge of the bed. Even blinking hurt, damn it. Before I reached the toilet, I bumped into my nightstand, the edge of the bed, and the bathroom door frame. I realized I wasn't wearing any shorts. As I was about to pull them off, I decided to just sit down. As I stood there swaying, still half drunk, after 2 quarters, I staggered back to my bed, laid back down, and involuntarily moved towards my wife. She was naked too. I smelled her hair, and then kissed her neck and bare shoulder. I leaned into her and started to doze off, feeling more than a little prepared. I figured she had no intention of messing around at this hour. Oh no, she would lose her temper occasionally, even if I only woke her up to kiss her. I felt her lunge at me until I was fully involved, even though my eyes were still closed. Held for the next 10 minutes, we moved together in complete silence. As we neared climax and finally tipped over the edge, our heartbeats increased, and our breathing quickened. Gentle caresses replaced the dramatic thrusts and cries. She gently reminded me to go back to sleep as I held her in my arms and kissed the back of her head. Even with my eyes closed, I could see the light coming through the windows, and neither of us moved as we fell asleep. As I slowly came to, my head hurt, and I had a horrible taste in my mouth. I pulled her closer to me as I tried to remember when I had come home, but it was all a fog. "I have to go to the bathroom." She jumped up and rushed to the bathroom naked and said, "I'll be right back." I could hear her washing her mouth and brushing her teeth, even though I was still half asleep. Not gently at all. She hopped back into our bed. "You better go to the bathroom and mind your breathing if you want anything to happen this morning." She laughed. "I can smell myself on your face." Okay, maybe my brain wasn't functioning optimally because I was exhausted and a little tipsy, but when I heard her giggle, I realized something. Kay wasn't here. She hadn't been home for over 4 months after we split up. I got out of bed and said, "Well, Kay, there was a mark, but unlike you, I was drunk and didn't realize until the next morning. Now that I know what kind of dishonest adulteress I'm married to, I can make the difficult decisions I've been putting off for months. I've apologized to you," reported Steve. "It's over. I admit I made a terrible mistake. I ask for another chance. Even though I'm not proud of what I did, I ask you to give me another chance to reunite our family because I love you. I beg you." How the hell should I react to this? "No, I see and sleep near you right now, Kay, but I need to think about it. I'm just pissed off. Please confirm it wasn't one of my coworkers or our mates." I asked around. She said it was someone I met through work, and it's before I spent the night on Friday in the guest room. I needed time to make some difficult decisions for the future. Even though it was lonely at the weekend we spoke, she assured me that she would give me honest answers if I asked her anything. I asked why, but I wasn't interested in the details. At first it was exciting, and I felt like a disobedient teenager with something to hide from his parents. "He gave me more attention in a single week than you had in the previous 2 years. His charm just captivated me, even though it was short-lived. We only had sex because it felt physically good. Once the thrill of the newness wore off, neither of us wanted our husbands to know, and we both agreed it wasn't worth it, so it was only a short trip. After I made my mistake, I wanted to get back in touch. On Sunday morning, I needed a vacation because my head was full of problems. She had missed dinner at her mother's house for months apart from her mother, Laura, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood, and she had a big smile on her face. Her mother hugged me, put something in my pocket, and murmured to me to call her tomorrow. As we got up to leave, the next 2 weeks were tense. The kids were glad their mother was back with them, and I was still sleeping in the guest room. I had a few errands to run after work or in the evening, so I drove home on Friday afternoon. As I didn't want to be disturbed, I turned my phone off. When I turned it back on, I had 12 messages from Kay, so I grabbed a beer and started reading them when she burst through the door with an envelope. "Steve, what the hell is that?" she screamed at me. "Kay, what does it look like? You served me the divorce papers." But why was she screaming? I thought we'd try again. I replied it was only the two of us back then, Kay, but we almost were. When Kay sat down in a chair in shock, I told her that there was no chance for the three of us, with the kids and all the wonderful times we've shared in the past. I was inclined to give us another chance. But I told her weeks ago a new realization made ours impossible. Anyway, how did you find out? Nobody knew, she said. Kay, is it important how I found out? Did you just want to pretend it was mine and play me like I was a naive narcissist? Do you realize that? You're a complete idiot. I'm sorry, Steve, that shouldn't have happened. I just love you, not him, she begged. We'll take care of it, and then everything will be like it was his wife. Won't find out either, because he gave me enough money to pay for it. With every syllable that came out of her mouth, she made a bigger hole in herself. I hope you all had three. Have a great time, Steve. You have my undying affection. We can get over this, and if you want, we can start over somewhere else by selling this house and buying another. We are done. I just didn't want to accept that we have been over for a while, but damn it, you can stay here until the house is sold, or you can find somewhere else to live. For the sake of the children, you can visit the children whenever you want, but I plan on taking them with me. I said, all I want from you is for you to get out of my life. She sobbed for the rest of the weekend, and we had a long introspective conversation with the children. When I picked them up, they were not happy about our split, but it was no big surprise to them. After all, she was their mother. After we paid all our bills, we split everything equally, and I was left with enough money to buy a modest house in a more pleasant area. Kai was very concerned about her problem, and I respected her wish to keep it to herself. One more problem remained. Everything changed that Sunday when Kay's mother put something in my jacket pocket. The next day called. I looked at her to see what she had given me. I really shouldn't tell you this, but if I don't, you won't know the truth. She began. It took me a few days to get up the courage to tell you about the object I found in the guest bathroom the morning after Kay left. In the trash, she found a pregnancy test that indicated someone had made a sandwich of sorts. It could only have been Kay, because she was the only woman in the house, and it certainly wasn't her. I suspected immediately that Kay was trying to cheat on you, but I didn't want to be the one to tell you. Remember this, I didn't do that, or you did it, Mama. Steve, I hate to tell you, but I admire her. She said, don't be a stranger, and hung up. That's how I found out Kay was pregnant. I think it would have been better if I had followed her to a shady motel and looked through the windows, or if I had discovered the test kit myself, or read a doctor's report. Her mother finally uncovered it. The house I discovered resembled the house Kay and I had lived in all those years. It had a big patio, 2.5 baths and 4 bedrooms, but no pool. Once the kids got settled and my new helper proved invaluable, we were all at Kay's mom's for Thanksgiving dinner after the divorce was finalized. When the kids inadvertently revealed the truth, they informed their mom, grandmother, and grandfather about the progress on the new house and the fact that they each had their own bedroom and their own beard. It really is great, added Kenny. I have my room, Daddy and Aunt Laura have theirs. Danny has his own, and we have one left for the people who come to visit, he noted, smiling proudly. He added, I even got to pick the colors for the walls and trim. Can you please repeat that? Kenny asked Kay. Her son, the extra room, your room, Danny's room, and someone else's, she asked, as if it didn't matter. He said, Daddy's and Aunt Laura's. How long is Aunt Laura going to be staying with you? Kay asked. He munched on his dessert and continued, since we moved into the new house, Mo. Stephen called Kay. I kissed Laura in the kitchen and noticed, looks like someone found out our little secret. It was only a matter of time. Laura rubbed her stomach and noticed we never told the kids to keep quiet, and Mom and Dad would have found out through my stomach. Anyway, we're leaving, so Laura replied as we walked into the dining room. I said I'd be happy to give you my hand. The Gulf War was like shock, because I was now with her younger sister. Kay was angry. Laura and I were just glad. I thought I had married the wrong sister, but I corrected that before it was too late. Her mother was thrilled to have another grandchild, and her father was relieved that he didn't have to deal with another son-in-law.